Well, hi friends. Today we are going to why the voice goes out the minute I get on camera. Welcome to Laugh So Create. My name's Rebecca, and today we are hopping right into this tutorial for making these pouches that is fully lined. I would encourage you to use an exterior that has a non-directional print, because this is actually one whole piece of fabric. There's not a seam on the bottom like some of the other pouch patterns that you may have seen. So perfect for those prints that are kind of all over the place. If you have a directional print that you absolutely want to use, you could technically sew two pieces together. You would just have to enlarge the pieces and allow for a seam allowance to join at the bottom before starting with a project. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I hope you find this useful. So let's get started with the supplies that you'll need. So this zipper pouch measures about 9 inches in length and 6 inches in height. The materials that you will need for this project: one cotton piece that is measuring 12.5 inches by 10 inches in width. I'm using a non-directional fabric. A piece of cotton for the lining, measuring the same. A piece of batting. I'm using cotton batting, and I really liked the weight of the interfacing that I used. This cotton batting is natural cotton batting, but you can use whatever your preference is, and you can also experiment with different types of batting. You'll want to make sure that you cut your batting to a larger size, 12 inches by 14 inches. For this project, I'm using Zipper by the Yard. I'm using a piece that is 17 inches in length. You can use pre-bought zippers with their heads. Just pick one that is longer, and it'll make sense later on why I'm picking something that is this much longer. It just makes it easier to be able to top stitch using this method. And then you'll just need some standard sewing supplies: a rotary cutter, mat, and ruler to cut straight edges if you have that, a pair of scissors or snips, a marking tool, and a seam ripper is always good to have on hand in case you make a mistake. Some chalk is also helpful when marking your lines for the quilting process. You'll also need some pins. You'll also need some clips to make the job easier. Your sewing machine and thread of whatever color. I'm using this light gray polyester thread by Glide. I find that this color actually is nice for top stitching. It has a nice sheen to it, and it has good strength, and I find that it blends into a variety of fabrics, whether it be a light fabric or a dark fabric. So it is somewhat of a chameleon of a thread, but you choose whatever thread that you have on hand that would coordinate nicely with your fabric. So to get started, you will grab your feature fabric and your batting, and you're going to take it and mark it for quilting. For this one, I did 1 3/4 inches apart, but you can decide how spaced out you want your markings. But what you do want to make sure is that your batting is larger, because when you go to quilt it, it will kind of shrink up. I'm going to use some chalk. I'm going to start with a center marking and then work my way out. You can get creative during this part. You can do cross hatching or whatever you might like. Pop in a few pins to just hold the top fabric and the batting together, and again, you don't have the lining on the back. Now with a 3mm stitch length, I'm going to sew down these lines and quilt them. You can also decide which direction you want these lines to be. The zipper will be on the narrower side, so these are actually going to be going horizontal, whereas I did these vertically. Onto the sewing machine to get this sewn up. 3mm stitch length, and I'm going to start in the center. I just ride along the batting. That way I don't have to keep cutting. You can remove the pins. So next you're going to take the panel, fold it in half, short ways. So this is the shorter end, and you want to find the halfway point and place a mark. And then you'll also want to take your zipper and find the center point. You can go ahead and put the zipper head on. So once you have the zipper pull on, I go ahead and put some back tacks there so that it stops it from flying off. I'm going to work with it open quite a bit. So with the right side of the fabric facing up, you're going to take, the zipper is going to be right sides facing down, aligning the center point marks and clipping. Then go ahead and find the center point on your lining as well. So with the lining, you're going to place the lining with the right side face down, and you're going to line it all up against that center point. The biggest thing here is to make sure that your sides are aligned correctly. So the right side of the lining will be facing the right side of the exterior. I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and sew across at a 1/4 inch in from the edge using a 2.5mm stitch length. This is why having a longer zipper is easier. You don't have to go around the zipper head. So I'm going to top stitch on, instead of doing top stitching on the outside of the bag, I'm going to top stitch the inside lining. So open it this way, and 1/8 of an inch in from the folded edge. I'm going to change it back to a 3mm. I'm doing all the top stitching in 3mm length. Next, you're going to take the bottom right side, and you've got the zipper right side up. You're going to bring the center point, and you're going to match it to the center point on the zipper. And then you're going to flip it over and bring up the center point lining up to the center point back of the zipper. Making sure everything's lined up and that the sides are lined up. Okay, next I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew down at 1/4 inch in from the edge using a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. Makes it easier if you can now open the zip up. So reach in there carefully and open it all up. And you see we've top stitched the lining there. And so now I'll need to top stitch the lining here on the other side. So as you can see, by opening it up, it frees you up to be able to top stitch, and you may have to rearrange it to top stitch all the way down, but let me show you how I do it. Back to a 3 millimeter stitch length, going 1/8 of an inch in from the fold. As you can see, all you have to do is just kind of readjust as you're feeding it through. Okay, now that that top stitching is done, I'm going to zip the zipper closed carefully. I'm not going to pull it all the way off. I'm just going to pull it off to the side. That way it's easier to divide the lining and the main panel in order to finish the sewing. Okay, so at this point, all we'll need to do is, first of all, mark a point for the turning gap. As the turning gap's not going to be on the bottom because this is one continuous panel of fabric of approximately 2.5 inches. And the next thing is making sure that the zipper is laying evenly, so the tape is stacked on top of each other and the teeth are facing like that. And I'm going to place a clip on either side to secure that. So as you can see, I have the teeth and then the tape is stacked like so. And same on this side. So next I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew from the exterior end towards the center, towards the zip, and I'm going to stop right before the zipper teeth and back stitch. And then I'm going to start from this gap, back stitch, and go as close as I can to the zipper tape. Go in 1/4 inch in and sew with a 2.5 millimeter stitch length, and then repeat the same process from the outside going in towards the zipper, back stitching, and then again from the outside in. It just makes it easier if you're riding up to the thicker part in this process rather than trying to start up on top of the zipper and working your way out, if that makes sense. Okay, so back to 2.5 inches. And just hold the zipper tape stacked with your hands if you're unpinning it so it doesn't shift. and back stitch. So I just bumped it up against the bottom of the zipper tape. I'm just going to flip it over so I have my guide here at 1/4 inch. I'm going to go ahead, I didn't write up on that, I'm going to go ahead and pop the zipper head back in. You can do that beforehand too if you need to, so you're not having to fiddle with it like I just did. So it's better to pull in the zipper before you do that, the zipper head. Squeeze it through. If not, I have to unpick a few stitches. No problem. No problema. Maybe it's a problema. Just want to unpick 1 or 2 of the stitches. There we go. There. Okay. Now then. Don't forget to leave yourself the gap. You can kind of feel where the teeth are right there. It's just to trim up these tails, and I just do I leave some excess because that's gonna actually tuck in. That's okay. All right, it's time to turn the project. And if you need to reach in to pull the zipper open, now what I will say is I think I actually like the vertical lines better than the horizontal, because if you can see, it's not perfectly lining up, so it's not perfect, but you can always do cross hatching as well as an option, or do the vertical ones. That way you're not dealing with having to match things perfectly. So all that's left to do is to close the little turning gap. And you can either use a slip stitch to close that or just the sewing machine. I'm going to use the sewing machine and close it. So I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and close that shut with a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. I'm going to go down about 1/8 of an inch, or as close to that as possible. I'm not going to bother changing out my thread, and it's on the side so it's not as visible. You can take it to the ironing board and press it. And there you have it. Hi friends, welcome to Laugh So Create. In today's tutorial I will be showing you how to make the